And we're back with another episode of NBA Observations. It's Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much again for joining us right here at NBA Observations and the Lakers Fast Break. Truly appreciate you doing so. Make sure you like and subscribe. Don't forget to go ahead and hit that notification bell so you're notified exactly when the latest NBA Observations, Lakers Fast Break, Lakers Weekend, the shorts, the clips, whatever it is I do go for this station, do for this channel, do for this network, called the LFB, comes right at you, and you know what comes up, whether it's a Joe Soro calling out Bronny as a Make-A-Wish kid, or us doing a post-game, or talking about the NBA. Go ahead and make sure you catch it today by liking and subscribing indeed. But also a place you need to go ahead and subscribe to and like his videos is, of course, also as well my guest today. So go ahead.
I'm not your friend, Gerald.
Well, hold on. I was going to go ahead and
okay. All right.
I usually set you up as far as it's concerned. Go ahead and make sure you go ahead and check out his great channel today, Stephan Piscano Podcast. It is my good friend. It is Stephan Piscano. See, I was put in there. What's going on, Stephan?
Thank you, sir. How you doing, my friend? Thanks for having me on here. It's an honor.
No worries. It's all good. I mean, I've been on your show twice and thought I'd repay the favor. Plus, a lot of the things that you've been saying in recent days due to the fall of the Los Angeles Lakers in recent days. Obviously, I've gotten a lot of people angry out there with their emotions, their thoughts, went from glee 2 weeks ago to not so glee, the exact opposite, a matter of days, actually, matter of 1 day, actually. All comes right down to it. Before we get into some of the things in regards to Luka, the MVP, the 65 game rule, what's it like in the Western Conference, the Lakers' future, some of the things I want to touch on with you with as far as that's concerned. Your thoughts on how you felt initially when you saw at first Luka, grabbing his leg, and then later on learning about Austin Reeves as well.
Well, it's just been a roller coaster, right? Because March was that was probably the most fun month that I've had as a Laker fan, probably since, even more fun for me personally than the 2020 bubble championship run. So you're probably going back 10, 15 years to the Kobe days before, since I've had a month that was that enjoyable to watch. And you'd come onto your streams with Lakers Fast Break, and the energy in your live streams was just, it was like we were all hugging each other virtually, and
I was trying.
Yeah. I mean, I've been trying to give you a hug for months now that I think about it, Jared, and you always turn me down, but that's okay. But no. And then in one night, just everything crashed. Luka's MVP chances were destroyed. Our season, our opportunity to compete for a championship was destroyed. I've never actually experienced it like that, to where in a 24-hour period, like you said, you go from just the highest of heights and optimism and just a fun feeling that, like I said, I haven't felt in 10, 15 years, to complete hopelessness. Because now I don't even know what we're trying for. And it seems like LeBron's debating if he's even going to try to play the rest of the regular season. It's just the only question left now is, are we going to have a full-on sweep, or is it going to be a gentleman's sweep in the first round? Can we squeak a game out? But it's depressing, my friend. Not happy about it.
Well, to give you a late update, because it came out just before we went on air, the reports are that LeBron has been cleared to play in Golden State coming up on Thursday as we record this on Wednesday. So he has been updated to play. Marcus Smart is questionable, so that's an upgrade for him as opposed to just being out. Jackson Hayes, Luka, and Austin are currently the individuals that are out right now with various injuries. And so with that, like you said, the tenor and the tone of the actual thoughts on the team have taken a sharp turn in a lot of people's eyes.
Just night and day. And it almost felt like the whole league changed, didn't it? Because, we were having, and not to get ahead of ourselves and get into the MVP stuff, but we were having one of the most fun 3-4 horse race MVP discussion. That's when you came on my show. That was our main topic. And then it was just all over in one day. And yeah, I don't recall a drastic shift like that happening in any sport for a while.
Absolutely. And again, a lot of the league, when the league prospers, and I know Joe has mentioned this as well, the league seems to always seem a little bit brighter when the Lakers are at least have a smidgen of a chance to go ahead and be a championship thought of team. And again, did have a smidgen of a chance. Obviously, they were not going to be the favorites going into the playoffs,
We had a
but
puncher's chance, yeah.
a puncher's chance, I'd probably say. Is what I think I did use that quote as well leading into it. But I think on your show, I think I did as far
I
as
think so. Yeah, I did a
yeah,
direct steal from you, I think.
yeah. So it's again, now it's nothing. Now it's gone down like you could hear the toilet flushing, and obviously there's nothing left after that. So we're just biding our time until the end of the season. I get that. I understand that, but we'll have to wait and see if the Euro doctors can go ahead and somehow magically put some type of healing power onto the power of Luka Doncic's leg and Austin Reeves. With his oblique injury, that's going to be a tough one, I think, as well, because the fact is, if you've ever done or just really just stretch those muscles out right there, it hurts quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, and I heard Joe say last night on your show too, and I agree. I mean, Reeves is not going to want to, if there's any risk at all, he would be an idiot to risk it with what he's got coming up with his contract extension here. So, yeah, I think Reeves is probably even less likely than Luka. I'll say this. He just made me think, though, Gerald, as somebody, and from getting to know me a little bit personally and being on my show, I'm not a big LeBron fan as an individual, but if LeBron somehow could pull off a first round upset and carry us into the second round to where we could get at least Luka back at some point, to me, as someone who's not a fan of LeBron, that would be a huge feather in his cap for his legacy. So, I mean, it's an opportunity in that sense. Not likely, but opportunity at least.
Absolutely. Well, we did have one of our regulars in the chat, such as yourself, Robert Wheeler. He's holding out hope that somehow turning the clock for LeBron will happen in that first round. And again, they're going to be most likely facing the Houston Rockets. Whether or not they're going to be the 4 seed or the 5 seed remains to be seen, but we will find out in the coming days. But when it came to Luka and the MVP, you were one of the strongest advocates in regards to Luka as the MVP. Obviously, each and every individual in the top 4 has their case on why. We'll start with Nikola Jokic, who has those video game like numbers. I mean, for a center to be averaging a triple double, it's something that I don't believe any other center has ever averaged before.
No,
and yeah,
there's just 3 guys still. It's
yeah,
just Oscar, Russ, and Nikola. So, yeah.
So I mean, he's the tallest guy to ever do it, and it's doing it with such great efficiency. And now that with Denver on such a massive winning streak and winning ways themselves, just coming into they're getting all healthy at the right time, which is bad news for the rest of the NBA. I do want to mention, of course, Victor Wembanyama, who may or may not come back before the end of the season. I know it's going to be touch and go with him, but he has provided his own video game like numbers as far as when he's been in there. That's helped spur, pardon the pun, the San Antonio Spurs to a monumental record way above. Nobody can come here and say that they planned this. Nobody can come here and say that they were ready to do this. If somebody even Megan Price, who I interviewed at the beginning of the season to do a team preview of San Antonio because she covers San Antonio, even she, I don't think, thought of them at this level. They have exceeded all expectations, and a lot of that is to the drive and will of Victor Wembanyama. And then, of course, we have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who has led the team that has either been number 1 or number 2 overall in the league for the entire season. They got up to that amazing start, and he, of course, has that 20-point consecutive game streak now, all-time record. So, again, each and every individual has their case. You had stated on your channel exactly why you felt Luka was going to be, or in your opinion, was the MVP. So I want to hear that out, because the national narrative with these national NBA writers, to be quite honest, and I think you've already seen it, differs a little bit from what you have to say.
No, well, and that was part of it, as you know, I think from our discussions and some of the stuff that I put out there, that was what really shifted me. Because in January and February, even though Luka was actually putting up just historically insane numbers the whole season, right? I mean, he was averaging, I think the lowest his average dipped was like 32.6 points per game at any point this season. And he started off hot too, averaging, above 40 the first 5-6 games of the season when LeBron was out and leading us to that historic start that we had going 10-2 and all that. And then in March, going back to the end of February was when I saw just this. There was about a week to 10 days where it was pretty clearly to me a coordinated media attack to where you had Max Kellerman saying that the Lakers should consider trading Luka. You had people like Bill Simmons trashing him on his podcast, all the normal Kendrick Perkins, ESPN idiots saying, oh, this, that, and the other thing. All of this blame, all of this criticism on this guy who has had, you could argue he's had the best individual start to a career that any NBA player's ever had. And a lot of these same people were just fawning all over him when he was with the Mavericks, talking about him being a top 2 player, universally top 3 prior to the trade. And then all of a sudden he comes here to play with us, which is just an incredible blessing, gift of a trade, whatever you want to call it, by my guy, Rob. And all of a sudden everybody's shitting on him. And I just had never seen anything quite like it. And then I expected him to respond to that by crumbling a little bit. And instead of crumbling, instead of trying to adjust his game and be submissive to the negative attacks, he put on that incredible show that you mentioned in March, where we end up going, 15-2, 14-2 in the games Luka played. He goes 10-1 in a stretch where he averaged personally more than 40 points a game for those 11, 12 games in the month of March, and just carried a team that in February, everybody said was dead, even us. We all thought it was, the team was pretty much dead. We kind of felt the way then about them that we do now. And immediately, that wasn't LeBron. That wasn't even Austin Reeves. That sure as heck wasn't JJ Redick. That was Luka putting us on his back. And, we talked about it on my show when he came on. Now in the month of March, the only 2 players ever to have 600 points in the month of March in the history of the NBA is Luka Doncic and Michael Jordan. And to me, when you really look at his numbers, like I think because this era is so soft and the defense has gotten so weak and the rules and the pace and everything, there's a lot of crazy historic numbers being thrown out there. So we're desensitized to it. But when you go and you look at it in the history of the NBA in 80 years of basketball, there's been 2 players and 4 total times where someone's averaged at least 32 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. And that was Michael Jordan doing it one time, I think in 87 or 88. I think 88, actually. And then Luka has already done it twice. I think he would have done it again this season for a third time, and now he's injured, and he's going to be like 34, 7.5, and 8. But still, nobody has put up numbers like what he's put up, and I think it's ridiculous that he's not going to get rewarded for that. So anyway.
Well, but I will say this again. I'll phrase it, and I think JJ Redick. You can argue about JJ Redick all you want, and say this and say that. I'm not going to say too much indifference to it because I still think that there's a lot of things that he says that are quite interesting indeed. But one of the things I will go ahead and say he was pretty good on is the fact that he commented on Luka saying that he had the best first and third acts to the season, well, until the injury
until now, yeah.
But it's that second act though that's the problem. And SGA, in my opinion, has had the steadiest of all the season because he's just been there. He's just been grooving. He's just been doing his thing. Foul merchant, all everything you want to say as far as it's concerned. But he has provided and been the best player on the best team this season most of the year. And Victor Wembanyama, the fact he hasn't played a whole, comparing him and LeBron on their minutes was just eye-opening to a lot of people. I get that. And Nikola Jokic like the Lakers, were down in 6th place at one point in time in this season. So it's been a little bit of peaks and valleys for Luka and Nikola, and the one constant has been SGA and the OKC Thunder, and I think that's why he was going to get the MVP regardless of what Luka did in these last 2 weeks.
Well, and yeah, and I hear you on that. And I mean, SGA's been the pick since November, right? I mean, they kind of decided that. I mean, he went into the season a heavy gambling favorite, and he's remained there, and he's had an incredible year. I mean, I really respect SGA. I try to actually be I feel like I should be a bigger fan of his than I am, and I don't know if it's just boring to me or to watch him play or what.
He's not an exciting player to watch. I mean, I'm going to just tell you right now, and they tell you in Oklahoma City, Caleb Ponce, who covers it, I talked to him every month, he's going to tell you he's not an exciting player to watch as far as slam dunks or skying to the rim or amazing passes or what. He's just really, really good.
He's steady, and that's why he has that streak you mentioned, because he's just steady. He's the same. He's crushing you every day the same way. So I respect it. But honestly, and we talked about this on my show as well, but I really don't like that the media sets who the MVP is going to be in November, December, and then spends the rest of the year trying to back up that opinion. So just like you said, actually, I might say that SGA had the first third MVP to me, because they started out so hot, 24-2 record for the team. Yeah. He's averaging 32, 33 points a game in that stretch. And again, if you go back to look at what people were saying at that time and what the gambling odds were, I think I heard on Bill Simmons' show back then that the odds for the over-under for the team at that point was like 74.5. So you could actually get even money to say that they were going to win less than 74 games, which is crazy. That's how hot they were. And now they're going to end up, being a mid-60s win team. So they really, and I know his teammates had some injuries too. I understand he had some things to overcome there, and he himself was out for 12 games. But you look at it too, his team is so stacked, in the 12 games he's missed, his team's 8-4.
That's almost a detriment because they have so much quality depth on that team. That's almost a detraction from what he's doing. And I understand that as well.
Well, so you said to me that he would have been your vote a month ago or a few weeks ago, whenever it was we talked about it.
Although Wemby for me was actually closing in. Whoever was going to win the West was going to be my pick, to be honest with you. But Luka was close. But again, with Luka, it's the fact that at one time, like Nikola Jokic, him and the team were not producing as many wins as the other two were doing, because the fact that they had ups and downs in their seasons. So I think that right now, again, it's clear now that SGA is going to run away with it, whether we like it or not. But at one time I was very close, because the fact is, when they met straight up, San Antonio had defeated OKC 3 out of 4 times. And it was getting to the point where they were just 2 games back in the Western Conference. And it was looking like that Wembanyama was, in his action and his words, was starting to think that, I really can't think I go ahead and win that MVP.
Well, and he's just so transformative with the way that he plays, right? I mean, he's kind of the opposite of what we just said about SGA, because when you're watching him, Wemby play, you can't take your eyes off him. I mean, you just
on either end of the court, and that's the biggest part.
Yeah, I mean, well, and you've seen all the numbers, and I've seen all the numbers. I mean, when he's on the court, their team automatically is, like, by a country mile, the number 1 ranked defensive team in basketball, just because he's there. So he has that big of an impact on that side of it. And I guess I'm kind of still a narrative guy more than maybe a lot of people, and certainly more than the voters are, because to me, the numbers matter, but the expectations and whether you overcame or underachieved those expectations, your supporting cast. And like you said, I mean, Wemby's best case is that they probably outperformed their expectations for win total by 20 games, so.
Yeah.
But you got Jokic third then still, or where do you have Jokic in this whole thing?
I would have Jokic third in this entire equation. Again, like Luka, see, if you're basing it off the narrative that one time they were struggling during the course of this year, which in March, early in March and mid-March, they were. Denver.
Yeah.
And when LA started their rise, someone had to go ahead and fall because of it, and that was Denver. And Denver was at one time teetering on the brink of being in the play-in. And if that's the case, you have to go ahead and put that in consideration. But because the fact that what happened with Luka not being able to finish up the season strong, I think that fourth place is about the best that Luka's going to get at this point in time.
It's depressing, but I tend to agree. Although now, I mean, this is kind of segueing with the 65 game stuff that we're talking about. This idiotic rule is so destructive to the legacy of basketball that now Wemby's in jeopardy. Like you said, he might not make 65 games.
So I want to ask you about that. Let's get into it right now with the 65 game rule. And once again, this is NBA Observations. It is Stephan Piscano with the Stephan Piscano Podcast, along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching this. I truly appreciate it. With the 65 game rule, and as I said on the show, and I said to Joe, and because I know he is an adamant against it, because with collective bargaining agreement, which he cannot stand, et cetera, et cetera. I say there was a time I was with you on that, and I've watched your video and I watched your thoughts on.
Thank you for being among the few that do. Thank you.
Yes, and I've watched it, and I was in line with you previously, but I've seen over the years some of the slightest reasons that people are just out of the game for whatever reasons, and I think it was for me there was a breaking point, Stephan. And it was when Miami had a home game. It wasn't against the Lakers, it was against somebody else, but he was listed out as ill. So he's sick. Okay, fine. He's not out. He's taking photographs after the game with kids who traveled from Brazil and had a sign that said, I traveled from 10,000 whatever miles from Brazil.
So while he's sick, he's hanging out, giving that sickness to kids.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah. Or if is he actually sick? So again, you make a mockery of those games, of the games that you're playing. And also the fact that, it's no longer a great value unless you're in Memphis, Washington, certain losing places. It's no longer a bargain to go ahead and watch these games. So I don't care about the owners. I don't care about the players. They're all multimillionaires. They're all, in some cases, billionaires. But when you do the 65 game rule, the 65 game rule, hopefully there was some point in time where somebody thought, you know what, we need to put a demarcation line for the fans. And so I'm trying to think of it in as far as the fans are concerned, because if I'm leaving the arena in the Miami arena, I see the guy who was reported sick taking photos with kids and laughing up, and I'd be like, bleepity bleep bleep bleep, I just spent $200 waiting to see Jimmy Butler and I didn't get.
Was it Jimmy Butler? Is that who it was?
It was Jimmy Butler. It was Jimmy Butler. That could be another tangent in and of itself, but you see what I'm saying? It's just, at what point do we start caring about the fans in this equation, which I'm not as hard and fast against the 65 game rule on that, but I just wanted to put that perspective in there.
No, I hear you. And it's funny, Gerald, because we kind of had the opposite with it, I guess, because when it first was announced, I was actually for it for a lot of the reasons you're talking about. Mm-hmm. For me, though, as a fan, and I'm starting, the more other people that I know that are get to know in this new technological world that we've got here, where I can do what we're doing right now and meet Lakers fans and sports fans from around the world and all that. I'm kind of learning, maybe I'm in the minority, but for me, I think number one, I always care about the legacy of the sport and the players. And that really matters to me. I think maybe more than it matters to most people. So what made me originally excited about the 65 game rule is the season before that. I think it was just, if you go back and you look at the All-NBA team from that season before, it's just pathetic. I mean, I know LeBron made second team All-NBA that year, and we missed the playoffs that year. And somehow off of media, whatever. He was second team All NBA. He played 45 games. And that was just what, 3-4 years ago. So that's a joke. Jimmy Butler, to bring him up again, I think he made All NBA and he played like 55 games. So if you go up and down and look at the All NBA teams for that year before this rule was in, something did need to be done because it was just players were playing half the damn season. Like I said, 45, 55 games. So that's insane. That's disrespectful to the sport. That's disrespectful to the fans, to your point. I've experienced, one time I took my brother to a Blazers game about 10, 11, well, I guess, 13 years ago now. But anyway, and yeah, half of the other team was out and we were just sitting there, and it's not fun when you go and you don't know that. So I get it. My problem with it is I feel like that the people that are being hurt the most by it are not the people that the rule was created to be enforced against. So the people that were really, really doing the load management, the Kawhi Leonards, the LeBron James, the Jimmy Butlers, even, Steph Curry to some extent, those kind of that older guard, it's hard for me to believe they're older now, but that older guard of stars that were resting on a just weekly basis just to keep their bodies intact, to prolong their careers, which I can't blame them for doing. It's smart if you can get away with it. And all those players I just named, Kevin Durant, another one, their level of play is elite high into their late 30s. Now, LeBron's case, early 40s, probably largely because of all that resting they did for that 5-6 year stretch. But the younger players, the Lukas, now Wemby last year, if that rule wasn't in place last year, even though Wemby had the heart issue or whatever it was, blood clot issue, and he only played, I think, 46 games off the top of my head, he still led the league in total blocks last year. So I think he would have been voted Defensive Player of the Year last season, if not for that rule. Now this season, he's going to be probably the first unanimous Defensive Player of the Year in NBA history, but he might not be qualified again. So you've got this guy, this transformational, generational talent in Wemby that's been in the league 3 years. All I heard from everybody all these 3 years, he's going to win the DPOY every year. He's going to have 5-10 of them. If he doesn't qualify because of this stupid rule, he's going to be 3 years in and have 0. And he won't even make an All-NBA defensive team last year or this year because of this idiotic rule. Luka, we just talked about, he's had one of the most, insane statistical seasons in the history of basketball that, it's just him and Michael Jordan. Nobody else has ever done it, ever. Not Wilt Chamberlain, not LeBron James, not my guy Kobe. Nobody except Luka Doncic and Michael Jordan. And he's going to not even be third team All-NBA if he doesn't get that rescinded or whatnot, or get that appeal accepted because of this stupid rule. And even going to people that I don't care about, like Cade Cunningham, Anthony Edwards, not a big fan of him, but you go down the list, and when people are Devin Booker, I just heard today, he's not going to qualify because of a weird niche in the rule where he'll play 66 games, but he's got 2 games that don't meet the minutes threshold. So the awards, which I care a lot about, because when we have these GOAT arguments decades later, years later, when kids, like, they're trying to learn about how great Kobe was now, one of the things I can tell a young person now that didn't get to see Kobe play is, well, he had more All-NBA defensive and All-NBA first team selections combined, if you combine those two, than any other player in history, I think, except for Tim Duncan, or maybe they're tied, I can't remember, but those matter. And it's supposed to be a snapshot of what happened that year, where I can go back and say, wow, Luka had a great year. SGA had a great year. Jokic had a great year. Jokic might not even make it either. If Jokic breaks his toe tomorrow, he's not going to qualify if he doesn't play the remaining 3 games. So you could have 5 out of the 6 best players this season not be on any All-NBA team, and I just don't think that's right. So
I just no, and I can understand that, and I empathize. And again, I was completely opposite before really coming to grips with the fact that some of these injuries that they have are some of the reasons why they're just sitting out. They're sitting out for rest, and as Joe said, they're sent in the very best of airplanes. They're sent in the very best of travel. They have the best of comforts, and somehow they need rest. And it's just, those are irritating to me. And with let's take the Lakers, for example. And we'll just because that's who we follow the most. That's who we appreciate the most. The season ticket holders for next season have already got, or this season have already got next season's rates. And, as much as we love Mark Walter and all that stuff, they're substantially double-digit percentages higher
Oh, I didn't
in a
know that.
lot of
Wow.
cases.
Okay.
And so if, a lot of those people are selling tickets and whatnot, they're saying, okay, I'm not going to be there 82 games. So I'm going to be 41 games. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sell some of those off, et cetera, et cetera. So, if I'm spending $600, $700, $800, then I realize I get there and there's a higher likelihood if we don't have a 65 game in there, as far as limited there, that a LeBron, Luka, or Austin, the people that I most likely want to see the most, are not there because of rest.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
That's the problem. So what do you do about that? What do you do if you waive the 65 game rule tomorrow, what do you do to prevent that? Because
I have the
load
solution.
management is now something in the modern age that NBA does and does very well.
Well, I agree with you in general. And like I said, I mean, when it first came out, I think for the older guys that were doing it so heavy, and everybody was doing it for that period right after the pandemic. But I think for them, it is a way of life. Although it's funny, it worked for them because LeBron went from playing 45 and 55 games the 2 seasons prior to playing 70 plus games after they put the rule in. Kawhi Leonard, even the most notorious load management guy in history, he played enough to qualify for us. So it worked for those guys. But I think if we look at it, right, like Luka, Cade Cunningham, Wemby, Jokic, Edwards has played like an Iron Man. If you go look at how many games he's played throughout his career, he's playing around 80 games every season except for this year. Those guys weren't load managing. Those guys just got hurt. Or in Luka's case, he had the stupid technical. He got the suspension. He had the 2 games for his birth of his child. And then he got hurt, the rest of it. So I'd like to find a way to differentiate between rest and an actual injury. And I know that's tough because like LeBron last night, that was a rest game, in my opinion. But
that was
we
don't want you to go ahead and waste any energy by losing by 30 anyways to Oklahoma City illness. Yes. I know that itis
he got
very well.
The thunderitis. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. But they put it on the injury report as a foot thing or whatever. So I know they could manipulate that if you had it to where it was. So I think the solution is you announce it. Adam Silver gets up there. He announces it. We're going to basically just say it like you're talking to a child. We're going to give you guys one more chance to just have some honor. Because all of the stuff that we're complaining about and that Joe's talking about and that you're talking about, that I'm talking about, and anybody that's watched the sport and cares about the sport and has watched it for a while, this is all pride. It's about, like Kobe said, like I've heard LeBron say, like I've heard MJ say in the past, you show up for the fans. You respect that somebody bought a ticket. That's why Kobe played with all the injuries, broken eye sockets and shoulder dislocations and all the things that he showed up and still gave it a shot to go so he could be there for the fan. But it really comes down to the media and the people that vote for these awards to use freaking common sense to enforce that pride. Because if they could rely on these idiots at ESPN and Fox Sports, the Mike Greenbergs of the world, the morons that put Jimmy Butler with 55 games played and LeBron that season with 45 games played, that actually voted for them to put them on NBA, those are the idiots that need to have their votes taken away and enforce it with common sense because if you could use common sense, they wouldn't have had to put this rule in the first place. And you can go, oh, okay, well, so this year Luka's played 64 games. He's 1 away. He's clearly first team All-NBA. We're going to put him on the ballot. Somebody that like Joel Embiid's got actually good numbers this year, but he's played 33, 34 games, whatever. We're not going to put him on any of the All-NBA. Just it comes down to common sense. So I would say we're going to give you guys a 2-year period. Use freaking common sense and vote accordingly and see if the media can handle it. And then if they can't, you make it known that then we're going to put the the game minimums back in. And if you really aren't capable of just using common sense yourself, we'll do it for you. Because that, to me, that's where the whole rule, that's why we even had to have it in the first place. So
again, I'm not gonna argue with you on it as far as the validity and what it does to the game and all that. But in the age of load management, I couldn't agree with you more. It's just at when the prices at this point are just so high on a lot of things in our life and in our world and the tickets, and then I hear and I see how much more will cost people to go to these games.
yeah.
There should be a level of expectation that 65 times a year or 65 times a season that you can expect at least the players that you're most likely paying for to be there on the court.
It is crazy too, isn't it? Because 65 really is a low number still. You're right. I mean, it shouldn't
It's
be
not
that
I don't
hard
think
to
it's
do.
too egregious of a number. I just don't
No,
think, I mean, what percentage is that? I would know about 70%.
yeah, right around there. Well, let's see. Yeah, 60, but yeah, it's right around 65 to 70%. So, I mean, but I mean, you think about in the 90s and the 2000s, I mean, most players played 75, low 70s to high 70s or 80 games, 81 games. Yeah, that was very common. It was, if you had a season where you played in the 60s or less, that was the rarity. You must have had a really horrible injury. So I I don't know why it's so hard either. I hate to see the guys that have been the load managed guys like Kawhi Leonard, for example, um, getting rewarded for their play. And then you got guys, I just hate seeing guys like Wemby and Luka and even Anthony Edwards, Kate Cunningham, that their season should be documented somehow. I think that the NBA should come in, especially now if Wemby misses it too. I mean, well, what do you think? What should they do if you really, if Luka's appealed his for the birth of his child to see if they can give him credit for those
The
two
birth of
games?
child, I would pass over and let him have it. But then there comes the extra contingency of him missing a game because he was yelling at officials 16 different or other players,
Yeah.
16 different or fans 16 different times and got technicals for it. That's the hard one. That's the difficulty. So if I give
Yeah.
it to him, then I'm rewarding him for his behavior for missing that one game because of reaching 16 technicals. So I don't know. Do you teach him a lesson so that because all of us Lakers fans have said we want him to not do that as much. I
He's got to
think the
work on
best
that. Yeah.
and what is the best lesson you could go ahead and do? I'm going to sting you with that. As far as the best lesson is concerned, it's like, okay, I'm going to hit you where it hurts the most. I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, you want to become an MVP, you want to be eligible to this, then stop getting technicals. Because all of us in the chat and the Lakers have fast break, everywhere I go, I see it's like, okay, we knew what he was like. We were hoping that he would temper it down. Obviously, he's not. He's going to have to at some point because it's going to affect a lot more than just his MVP standing. But again, if this doesn't do, anything for him, the fact that it's now is his chances of being eligible for postseason awards are now teetering on the brink. If that doesn't do anything for
That's a
him
good
going
point.
forward,
Yeah.
then yeah, I mean, what will
Maybe the
teach him a
threat of
lesson?
it is like when you're a kid and you mess up and your parents tell you if you do it again, we're taking your car away, but they don't actually take your car away, that kind of whatever. I don't know. But no, I hear you. I mean, it's sad to me. It's really sad to me that we're even in a position where we have to even talk about forcing players that are making more money than they've ever made. They're making 40, 50, 30, 20, 60, 70 million dollars a year. And we have to bribe them to get them to show up. It's sad that it's even a problem. But I feel like if you don't, as far as the awards go, I feel like if you don't showcase what happened in that year, you're actually not even hurting Luka or Wemby or Joe or whoever it is. You're hurting basketball because now this season, let's say Jokic, I hope he does. I never root for an injury for anybody, but let's say he breaks his toe tomorrow and he misses the rest of the year too, and Wemby doesn't come back. So now you've got Wemby, Cade, Edwards, Jokic, Luka all gone. Who's going to be in Booker, because of the rule. Who's going to be on NBA first team? Is it just going to be like Jaylen Brown, SGA, and then a bunch of random? We're going to have Rudy Gobert on second. I mean, that's not an accurate depiction of what happened for that season. So,
but I'm going to tell you right now, if they give him that accordance and they give them that allowance, and he is allowed to he gets the pie pass and becomes eligible, guess what he's going to go over? It's human nature, Stephan. And when you live long enough on this earth, you understand human nature often takes over and dictates what you will do next. And come next year, we might be complaining about this again. Why does Luka keep arguing with refs? Why does he go ahead and keep arguing with other players in whatever language? Why does he go ahead and go off on fans? At this point, it's just like, if you don't teach him a lesson, then he's just going to keep on doing it.
Maybe you give him a big fine. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's the solution. Maybe for every game that you missed, you get a $500,000 fine. I don't know, or something like that.
That's just a lot of. It's a drop for a guy like him. What he's making, that's a drop in the bucket.
It is crazy to think. Well, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. So you think that they're going to give it to him, or what is your final opinion on it? Then you think they're going to let him
give it to him? I think I think they are going to give it to him. I think they are going to favor him because of the birth of his child, and they're going to give him the accordance on that. But what would teach him the best life? What would be the best thing for Lakers fans is the fact is if you teach him a lesson and he curbs it in following seasons as a member of the Lakers.
Yeah. I mean, because he probably is going to continue to get 12 to 20 texts a year throughout his career is what it feels like right now. And I don't fully understand that, Gerald. Tell you the truth. It doesn't make, you would think at some point you would kind of get tired of it, but it doesn't seem like he is. But I mean, he's what, 26, 27 years old still? I mean, maybe he'll grow out of it. We'll see.
Draymond Green never grew out of it.
No, he certainly didn't. He certainly didn't.
So before we head on out, my friend, I did want to follow up with one last thing you and I have gone back and forth on. But before, it's going to lead in a little bit of that. But I'm going to give you a chance to go ahead and defend your guy. Because, again, with the Lakers, we both think, in fact, everyone thinks at this point, that miracles will not happen. And this Lakers team will probably have the end of their season sometime coming up. Maybe this month, but maybe not. But maybe in May. We'll see. If they get into May, I think I would be a happy guy. I would be a really happy guy as far as it's concerned. But let's just say at this point, it goes first or second round and they're out. Where do you go from here? You see the Chicago Bulls, they recently cleared out their entire front office. They have a ton of cap space, more than any other team, including the Lakers, heading into the season. This summer, where you have the decision that you have to make with Austin Reeves, whether or not you want to keep him, whether you sign him for, et cetera, et cetera. The idea is obviously you've spent a lot of resources and time and energy to say this is Luka's team going forward. And now you have the opportunity to build around him going forward. And I did say last night that I think everybody got a wake-up call to see the difference in talent that was on the floor from one team or the other in Oklahoma City and the Lakers.
Well, I do have a counter for you there, Gerald.
Okay.
I don't want to interrupt you though.
I just wanted to say how, if the team decides to keep Mr. Rob Pelinka,
as they should.
And then there's my first disagreement. I think they will, but I don't think they should. But I will say this: how do they go about building the team from there? That would include LeBron. That would include Austin. That would include as far as how they build out from there.
Well, and for those that don't know, I guess we should, just to be clear, Gerald and I have kind of a friendly, loving feud going about Rob Pelinka for several months now.
We have a difference of an opinion on Rob Pelinka.
Yeah. I mean, in my theory, just to be clear, as I've always said, I don't think Rob is the best GM in basketball or even top 2 or 3. I just feel like I know that he, based on his tangible accomplishments as being a championship winning GM, being a general manager that pulled off the most lopsided trade in the history of basketball, that was so lopsided that all of us thought it was fake when we saw it. And we all said, no, that can't be possible. We had to have given him more than that. This has got to be fake. the guy who pulled that off, and everybody just said, oh, Nico Harrison's an idiot. Well, Nico Harrison may be an idiot. He is, but you still have to walk that thing home, and it takes incredible endurance and negotiating skill and relationship building skill over the course of the several weeks that Luka trade went on to whittle it down to where we give up 1 first-round pick and a guy whose nickname is Street Clothes, who's now not even on their team anymore. When they traded the same guy to the Washington Wizards, they got 2 borderline first-round picks that'll be worth, basically they got Jack for Anthony Davis when they traded him a year later. So incredible move there. And people go so deep. It's a lot of it's PTSD, Gerald, from before I found Fast Break Nation here and got to meet you guys and see some more common sense. But back in the day, before I found Lakers Fast Break and I was watching a lot of the Laker Nation, it got to the point with Rob to where it just felt like bullying to me, to where no matter what the guy, if anything good that happened, 0 credit, and anything bad. I mean, on their stream, I told you this, I think on my show, or maybe I didn't actually, but before I found you guys last summer, I was watching a lot of Lakers Nation, and every episode, they had like 7 to 10 episodes in a row where Dorian Finney-Smith, everybody was just bashing Rob Pelinka for what an idiot he was for not re-signing Dorian Finney-Smith, DFS, to a multi-year deal. And everybody's saying, well, gosh, the Rockets only gave him 2 years, and he said he wanted to come back, but Rob didn't match it. Rob's a dipstick. Rob's some more. Well, how much do you hear about Dorian Finney-Smith now? I mean, nothing. That was a great move. And he turns that Dorian Finney-Smith money into 3 guys. Marcus Smart, who we got at a bargain basement deal, like $6 million a year, and he's still leading our team in plus minus for the season. Jake LaRavia, who, for a $6 million guy, he's a solid role player. He's up and down. We've all talked about that, but nice signing. He's had a better year than Dorian Finney-Smith has just by himself. And then DeAndre Ayton, we got a starting center that, love it or hate it, he's giving you 12 points, 8 rebounds. And you got those 3 guys for this one player who's a bench player at the end of the bench in Houston now. And he saved $14 million in salary the following year. That's a great year. And even you, my friend, we're going so deep to criticize this guy that we're looking at like the 9th, 10th, 11th guy on the bench, players that any other fan base, any other group, you wouldn't even know who that guy is. Sorry, buddy.
No worries.
And we're trying to go that deep. We're going to a Do Thero to criticize him. We're going to project second rounders. And my big fundamental thing with Rob is true, like it or not, it's true. To me, it's fact. He's had to deal with the influence of Clutch Sports his entire tenure there, to where he's got one arm tied behind his back, and that's just no way to operate. So all I'm asking you for is just give me your support for Rob for 1 season after LeBron's gone, and just see what he does. And then if you don't like it, then I'll be the first one to say, let's get him out of here.
There's just the body of work as far as you've talked about all the highs with him, and I could talk just twice as long about all the lows and all the indecisions, the Westbrook deal, the letting go of Caruso, his draft choices has been awful this decade. The talent evaluation skills, you talk about the fact that we focus in on man 7, 8, 9, 10. The fact is the Lakers 2 years in a row have had one of the worst benches in the NBA. And all I hear from people is, remember, I get hundreds of messages, hundreds of comments each and every week on 2 different channels. And a lot of them say, play the young guys, play the youngs. Well, when we play the young guys, they absolutely suck out there for the most part.
You don't like Bronny going 2 for 9? You don't like that?
And hitting the backboard on one of his threes. And then a Dude Thiero, again, very rough, showed some athleticism, but one of his shots made it and the other one hit the backboard. So again, or airball, Bronny's airball from 10 feet. These are things I would not have drafted Bronny. I would have looked at other places.
You're blaming Rob Pelinka for that's what I'm talking about. And that's where I really can't even debate it with you, because we just have a fundamental difference of opinion there. Yeah. If you're blaming him for all of the clutch influence stuff, which the Westbrook
But
trade
even the
was.
like for instance, the stuff that he could have avoided, like the Westbrook trade, he could have said no to. It's like you got to put on your big boy pants when somebody comes to you and you see the fact is, I don't care who you had dinner with. You see Westbrook that is being dangled in front of you. You say, okay, have a great day. Go somewhere else. Vanderbilt, you didn't have to sign him to an extension. You did,
I
and
liked the Vanderbilt signing at the time. He's just dramatically
he
underperformed,
is
but I hear
just
you. Yeah.
absolutely, it's a lot of things that have gone right and a lot of things that have gone wrong. And I just think that equates out to, like you said, not even in a upper tier GM, in my opinion, which I think you need in order to build around Luka. But all that aside, I really think that despite Joe's misgivings and thinking that he's going to be instantly fired by Mark Walter after the season, I don't think Rob will be fired at the end of the season.
Well,
I
I hope
think he'll
just, I
be kept
mean,
on.
do
So
we not get,
well, my question is, I just wanted to ask how you build out from there.
well, I got one more quick thing for you that I just have to
Mhm.
rebut what you said. I wanted to say this to you last night. I looked it
Of
up
course.
last night with the Thunder game. So you're telling me that we lost by what, 37 points or whatever with our bench, and that shows we've got no bench. We lost by roughly the same amount of points with our starters a week ago. So, I mean, any team, I don't think that that's a criticism of our second half of our roster at all. I think if you put any second half of any roster up against the best team in the league, you're going to get crushed by 30 to 40 points.
Well, but OKC played its reserves quite a bit more in yesterday's game as they did in on last week.
I
I'll
don't
just leave it
know.
at
I
that.
mean, yeah, a
And
little
then,
bit.
and again, I could just come down to the fact that the Lakers are the one of the worst benches in the entire NBA. And I know that a lot of people say it's because JJ doesn't like to play. Well, if you see down the line and you see stuff that you don't like to use, then really, how can you go ahead and be able to
Well,
make it? But again, there's the opportunity now, Stefan, to
and
change it
this,
going forward. You have
yeah,
the
and it,
opportunity now to do so. And I think Rob will be given that opportunity. I'm
well,
no
I
snide
hope so.
remarks or anything like that. I would think he will be given the opportunity to do so. So in essence, what happens this summer? Retaining LeBron? Do we retain Austin? What do you think should happen in the weeks ahead for the Los Angeles
Well,
Lakers?
this is a perfect segue because my response to what you just said leads into the answer for the offseason too, because I think a part of that, and I'm not here to bash LeBron. I actually really loved a lot of the stretches, how he played this year, and it was actually fun to watch. And even that
It would be
last game.
easier to just admit it, and everybody should admit it. It's easier to watch the best 41-year-old season ever on the planet if it was being paid at $10 million, not
Exactly. Yes,
$52.6 million.
sir. Yeah, that's correct. And that, yeah. So when you got $52.6 million of your cap space eaten up with a guy who's about my age, that's not going to work too well for you.
Mhm.
So that coming off the books, and then as you know, obviously, I think what is it? What's the exact number? Around 100 million in cap space we've got coming off the books.
But it all depends if you sign and retain Austin Reeves, what happens from there and how much. That's the question. Are there players that are going to be like DeAndre Ayton or Marcus Smart picking up the second year on their contract? Those other small things, but there could be that possibility of that much. But again, that's only if you let Austin walk.
Yeah. Well, and the Austin one's a tough one, I think, in hindsight. And I can't remember honestly, but I think we might have been on the same page because even as incredible, and Austin Reeves shocked me this season. I never thought that he was capable of what he did in the early part of the season when he was averaging close to 30 a game and 8 assists. I just didn't think that he would ever be that kind of player. So, but he won me over. My thought was, though, at that time, we probably should have traded him and you might have got 2 or 3 first round picks and you'd have more ammunition in the summer. But, at this point, it's genuinely a tough question, right? Because you've seen when you look at him, and it's not I don't think, maybe it is in my head and I don't realize it. It's not because he's another white boy, but he just doesn't look like the kind of player you'd want with Luka, right? It feels like you'd want a defensive wing that can really get in there and make up for some of Luka's shortcomings. And that's not Austin Reeves, but they've demonstrated they play incredibly well together, right? They have great success. So
During the regular season.
during the regular season. Yeah. And in a perfect world, my dream scenario, which probably won't happen, we would find some way to package Austin Reeves in a sign and trade to the Bucks, combined
See,
with the
now
two.
we are agreeing on something right here.
You like this? Okay. Yeah.
Not to the Bucks necessarily. I would go to South Beach or somewhere else where you can get a multitude of quality players personally. But getting, if you're saying to get Giannis, okay, that's fine. But you have a small window if you do that, Stefan.
Well, you're the one who educated me on that because we got draft nights the only night we can trade 3 picks, right?
That's correct. You can only trade that because the Lakers would be then picking for someone else.
Yeah, and that's where I get a little confused with the functionality of it too, because since it's draft night, I don't know if we'd be able to do a sign and trade with Reeves at that point, right?
Yeah, because it falls before but you can have verbal agreements in place as far as
that's what I guess it would have to be. If we could, and just the fact that you just said what you said about maybe you'd rather have more pieces from Miami instead of Giannis. And a lot of people feel that way right now. And I don't necessarily disagree, but because his value is that low compared to where it was a year ago, I think we actually could get Giannis.
I'm just saying your windows. I'm not opposed to it. I'm just saying your window is a lot shorter with him because he's now in his 30s and he's also got injuries. I know Joe sometimes romanticizes things to a lot of people as far as it's concerned, but the reality is, like Luka, he's been often injured in recent years. Yes, that would be great together as a pairing, but you're still then having the problem of fact that you've replaced a $52.6 million player with a 50 something million dollar player to take, your problems as far as building a team become problematic once again.
Yeah, and I mean, I do worry about Giannis's injury history. I mean, he's been injured at the end of the year, 4 out of the last 6 years. I mean, so that's a little concerning. But hey, if you give me an opportunity to have a former MVP, former defensive player of the year, maybe more importantly than the MVP, to pair with what I think is the best offensive player in the league in Luka, I feel pretty good about that. I mean, and then you still got a little bit of cap space to place some players around them. I mean, that's the kind of team I'd love to have Marcus Smart back if we could get him on a cheaper contract like we had him for this year. If we can't get Giannis, then I have a question for you. Actually, I've been thinking about that I really don't know the answer to and don't really have an opinion on. But we've got the obvious defensive wings, right? Like the Trey Murphys, like if you want to count Giannis as a target for us, like Herb Jones, players like that. Once you get past those top 3 or 4 guys, who is, in your opinion, like the 4th, 5th, 6th best defensive wings that we could get and target? Because I really don't. There's not a lot out there right now.
Well, you mentioned the one that I would like to do a trade. Instead of using those picks on Giannis, use those multiple picks and throw them the way of New Orleans and get a Herb Jones and Trey Murphy, the third package. Go to a sign and trade with Miami if they or they fall in love with Austin Reeves. Say, okay, I'll sign and trade him for a package which includes Wiggins, Khalil Ware, who is cannot seemingly coincide on the starting lineup with Bam Adebayo, which is fine. We'll take the 7-footer who can hit threes and average 29, 15, like he did last week as well, and 6 blocks. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that.
I like it. I like where you're going, Gerald.
Honestly, $4 million a year, $4 million a year for that, for your starting center. That's fine. You're going to get more production than you are with DeAndre Ayton at 9. So again, there are things you can do. I see last night as a shining example what happens when you build from 1 to 15 as opposed to 1 to 5. And that to me is the key right there. Is we need to build a 1 to 15 that's not only good to very good to great during the regular season, something that you can give JJ or whoever's coaching, because I'm not 100% in love with it. JJ's great if he'll stay. If he's not, I'm okay with. I won't.
That's how I feel about it too. Yeah, he's exceeded my expectations, honestly.
But I won't be heartbroken if he's let go. That's. But if he stays, I'm cool with that as well. But to give him options So he has no excuse not to play his roster. That's what I want to do. I want to give him no excuse not to play his roster. Because again, if you put quality players out there from 1 to 12, I'm not asking 1 to 15, 1 to 12, then that dynamic for the Lakers changes a lot.
Well, I hear you, and I don't want to be argumentative with you because you're my guy, but I think if you look at other than the Thunder, I think if we look back at the last 25 NBA champions, having stars at the top helps. It's kind of what matters. I mean, you look at the Warriors, you look at the Heat with LeBron and Wade and Bosh, you look at the Cavs with Love and Kyrie and LeBron. If you've got three quality guys at the top, you've got a pretty good shot, and it doesn't really matter who you've got around. And then those role players become stars that weren't thought of as good players before, like a Mike Miller or like a Shannon. Nobody knew who the heck Shannon Brown was until Kobe turned him into a role player quality piece for a championship team. You know, he was a minimum contract throwaway. So I don't know. I mean, I don't care. I hear what you're saying. I actually love your idea about going after the P. If we could get a combo deal, somehow, if Trey Murphy would be elite for us to have. We agree there 100%. If we could somehow get Trey Murphy and or Herb Jones and or a package similar to what you just outlined from the Heat, get all of that coming back, and then we've got a nice solid 5, 6, 7 team deep, and maybe keep Marcus Smart too. That would be – I agree with you. I would like that more than Giannis.
Again, it's a in case of injury type deal where you have a better depth on your team to allow yourself to be more functional going forward is what I'm looking for, indeed. But before we head on out, my friend, it is of course Stephan Piscano. Make sure you go ahead and like and subscribe today. But why do they need to check out your podcast, the Stephan Piscano Podcast on YouTube?
I don't know, Gerald. I mean, you're on.
I'm giving you the magical pitch, my friend.
No, honestly, you know, it's kind of an evolution with the show. I mean, I'm a real estate guy by trade, and so originally the first 20 to 30 episodes of my podcast are mainly just me rambling about that, but I've been an obsessive, addicted sports fan my whole life, and I memorize weird stats from the 70s, 80s, 90s that nobody cares about but me, and it doesn't benefit me in any way. So yeah, it's something I'm passionate about, and I enjoy it, and you never know what you're going to get with the podcast, because one week I might interview somebody like the great Gerald Glassford, and the next week I might have a hypnotist on who's talking about whatever, and then we might talk real estate too. So it's a nice variety of stuff, but I think you're going to get factual data, and it seems like I disagree with everybody most of the time. So I guess that's either a good thing or a bad thing, right?
Well, as long as it makes for great entertainment, again, as a great host, what a great job you do on the shows that I've watched. I want to give you the best of compliments on your show. So I truly appreciate being a part of that. And again, it is the Stephan Piscano Podcast. I'm going to put the link in the description below, so you cannot say no. You have to go to Stephan Piscano right there on the podcast, indeed. But Stephan, I definitely want to bring you back on as we continue this summer and everything as far as going on, as far as all the interesting stuff. So again, the welcome mat is out for you, my friend. Any last thoughts before we head on out?
No, I appreciate you, Gerald. It's always fun. And, I'm a big fan of yours and everything that you do. So it's an honor to get to hang with you a bit here. And I'll close with this. If Rob pulls off your Trey Murphy and your Miami trade, then I want an apology from you. Is that fair?
Oh yeah. Well, and again, if it leads to a long way in the playoffs, absolutely. Because again, a lot of people. Well, the only thing, Stephan, is because a lot of people base off of what they see in the 82 game season. I see what I want to see out of a team in the months of April, May, and June. That's what I want to see, because that's when you earn your bread. That's when you earn your paycheck. You can have the greatest team going into the playoffs, but if you flounder in the first round, how does that look for your team? So again, for me, it's I don't try to get too high or too low on the team or on a team based on what happens during the regular season, because when you're going from Charlotte to New York to wherever, to these places, it's just human. We go back to human nature. You're going to have your highs and lows playing out there on the court. But when you come ready and you bring your team ready and everybody is playing at or want to try at their effort level, is all at 100 in the playoffs. That's what I look forward to most. How do you get it done when it matters the most?
I agree. And that's what's so depressing is that we're not going to get a chance to see that with this team. That's the saddest part. But anyway,
that is because, again, a puncher's chance. I had been talked into, and I had been seeing where I thought that, that they had a puncher's chance. It's very sad the way this ended up indeed. Although, again, you never know. Those Euro doctors may work wonders indeed. If that's the case, I have a back they can go ahead and take a look
yeah,
at.
seriously. I'm with you there.
I'll fly to Spain if that's the case indeed.
We'll
But once again, it is Stephan Piscano. Please go ahead and like and subscribe. Check out his podcast indeed. Stephan, it's been a great pleasure talking to you, my friend. And of course, I want to definitely bring you back on so we can have a lot more conversations and, of course, a lot more stuff right here with the Lakers Fast Break and providing our own NBA observations.